You're listening to the Fantasy Fling Podcast. Take a break from the season-long commitment and join us as we give you the newest and hottest DFS deals, preview the DFS main slate, and take the dreadful walk of shame. Here are your hosts, Brandon and Eric.
Welcome back. It's Saturday morning edition of Makin a Milli, Week 15, DraftKings Milli Maker Special. We're doing it Saturday because this is a disaster of a slate and had some things come up. So the later we do this, I feel like the better.
Absolutely.
Eric, how you doing?
Yeah, man. Good to see you again. It's a little different because instead of drinking whiskey, enjoying the Friday night, I'm drinking coffee. So we're doing a little different.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little too early for whiskey, so we'll go the coffee route.
Yes, sir. I mean, I've had whiskey this early before, but I'm normally tailgating for a game or
in Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas or snowboarding or that type of thing.
But this is definitely a weird week, man. Weird week. Yeah. They almost talked about postponing the whole thing, but I think the NFLPA pushed for it. But too much money to be lost if they do that.
No doubt. Well, we'll navigate through it. Like I said earlier when we were talking, I feel like this is going to be like the ugliest lineup to win the Milli Maker. It's going to be like a super ugly lineup, 190 points, binks it. So that said, before we get into that, we're going to take a look back at last week. Obviously, in our group, Paul had the top score, but he couldn't make it today. He had to work as we move some things around. So he forfeits. So I'm going to roll, or not have to roll. I've already built my lineup, and then Eric's going to roll the die, and we'll do that. We will build those lineups and give you stack studs and sleepers. But let's go ahead and look back at Week 14. We're always looking for the trends. So Week 14, Milli Maker winner. It was different because in Week 13, we saw the return of the mustache and Minshew Mania. That was in the Milli Maker winning lineup. Certainly, you'd call it lucky, but, Week 14, what would that have in store for us? Well, would we have another quarterback hit the main slate, with extreme value like we did with Minshew? Well, let's take a look. So that actually was furthest thing from the case this past week as we had a stud running back in the winning, or a quarterback back in the winning lineup with Josh Allen. So we had Josh Allen, as far as stacking goes, Josh Allen and Beasley, total of 57 points, averaged 28 points. So, we had a small team stack there. And then we had another secondary stack of Rashad Penny in Seattle, running back and defense stack, total of 35 points, average 17 points. Not really a lot here from a stacking perspective, but again, this year has been more about team stacks than, having it bring back. So don't force it if it's not there. So overall, this lineup scored 222 points. From top to bottom, we had Josh Allen with 42 points, Rashad Penny with 29 points. Barkley made his way into the lineup. I've been squeezing him in, and it's crazy. He didn't even go off, but he got 18 points. Jamar Chase, 25 points. Beasley, 15. Robbie Anderson, 21 points. Mark Andrews, 31 points. Hunter Renfrow, your boy, 32 points. Then the Seahawks with 6 points.
Renfro's good, man. He's a good player. He's kind of like one of those guys that doesn't. He's not the Devontae Adams or the Justin Jefferson type, but he's really good for what he does.
Yeah, for sure. Well, with pricing with this lineup, it was a total of 49,900 salary use, 4.33x. Again, every week in the Milli Maker, you're going to see one player that crushes value to the tune of 6x plus. That was Rashad Penny last week at 48 hundo. But what this really was just fading the studs like Eckler and Kamara and paying up a quarterback, tight end, and then really just targeting core running back wide receivers in the 5 to 7K range. Again, the entire lineup produced 4.3x, and of course, salary being the top guy. We also continue to see a 3K range defense find its way into the Milli Maker winning lineup, which we had this Seattle last week with they were 3,100. So overall roster percentage, this was more a return to normalcy. So we got back down to 82%. Again, if you avoid the popular game stacks and you're playing a lot of players under 15% ownership, which is what this lineup did, actually all players were under 15% ownership, and 6 were at 10% or less. So this kept the overall roster percentage very low, which is really what we've seen outside of a few chalky weeks. Most Milli Maker winning lineups fall in the 80 to 100% range. As far as leverage, this is the most important part of roster percentage. You want to keep it low, but you're doing that in mind with getting leverage on the field by like targeting certain players. So Josh Allen was leverage off of chalkier quarterbacks above 10%, like Taysom, Dak, and Herbert. Taysom, I think, was the chalkiest quarterback, and Josh Allen scored 16 more points. Rashad Penny was huge leverage, producing 6x and only being 2% owned. He was a high-scoring running back on the slate at only 4,800. Don't need to list everyone. He crushed everyone. Jamar Chase at 10%. 10% ownership, pretty good for a player under 7K who finished top 3. So leverage off of chalkier plays like Godwin, Evans, Guyton, Williams, Cooper, Diggs, and Lamb. And then Renfro, 14%. He was a little higher owned. Obviously, he's over 10%, but still wasn't crazy high. But when you're a top scoring wide receiver on the slate, it's certainly leverage because his ownership was not that high. And then Andrews, 7%. Yeah, he was great leverage play off tight ends because he was the second scoring. He came in lower ownership than guys like Hooper, Gronk, Cook, and Kelsey. And he was second only to Kittle, who scored 6 more points but was 1,000 more in salary. So all that said, Eric, let's go ahead and look forward to Week 15, bro.
Yeah, man. Week 15. Some changes there because I know originally on the slate we had the Rams-Seahawks game. Mm-hmm. Now we got moved. That was the third highest.
Yeah.
So surprisingly, though, even with players like some going on the COVID list, some not, the projections, the point spreads didn't change, which is kind of surprising from Wednesday till today. I looked them up. I thought for sure there'd be some changes, but everything stayed the same. So kind of surprising there. But we kind of went over it on Wednesday. I'll briefly go over it again today. Top game point spread wise is Arizona and Detroit, where Arizona's going to score 45 out of the 47 points. No, they're
probably
the 47 and a half point spread with Arizona projected for 30. Second on the slate is a 46 point spread Atlanta San Francisco, with that San Francisco projected for 28 point team total. The new number 3 is now Dallas and the Giants, with Mike Glennon coming back for the third game. It's Dallas is the favorite in that game with a 28 point team total. Also, Carolina and Buffalo 44.5. Also, point spread with Buffalo 28 point team total as well. And Cincinnati Denver 44 point spread. And surprising, I was kind of surprised about this, but they have Denver projected to win.
They're home.
I was surprised they are home. I was a little surprised though because they're a pretty decent team. But they're projected for 24 points. And then one more we added to the slate just because it's a kind of a bad week for games. We added Green Bay and Baltimore, 43.5 point spread with Green Bay is the favorite with a 25 point team total projection.
Sure, man.
So the only one that changed was Seattle and the Rams. They were originally 45.5 point. They're moved to Tuesday, so we can just scratch them off.
Yeah. Well, why don't we have you roll the die and
you are
get
doing
started. Dallas and Giants. Yeah, okay. So that's going to be the game that I'm building for.
That's the number 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, look, I rolled a 3. And another 3. What the hell? Seriously, 3 threes in a row? All right, there we go. What is that?
4.
That is Carolina and Buffalo. It's actually the game I wanted, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Nice. Yeah.
I rolled 3 threes in a row.
Yeah.
That's
I would. So I would have been all in on Seattle and Los Angeles. That was the game that I wanted, but is what it is. So I went with Dallas and Giants stack. So It's a crazy week, and it's an ugly week, and you got to get a little different with it. So I went over to the optimizer at Domination Station at DFS Army and running the optimizer, and didn't quite get what I wanted. So I went ahead and just swapped out a few players with this lineup. So let me pull this up real quick. All right, so I got a Dak stack with CeeDee Lamb. Now, the Dallas and Giants game is projected to be one of the higher pace games, and obviously it's one of the more higher games on the slate. Dallas, they have a 28-point team total, so that's tied, I believe, for the second highest on the slate. So I like Dak this week, and just looking at the options that I was seeing, the reason why I chose the stack was because CeeDee Lamb is not going to be highly owned from what I'm seeing right now. He's coming in under 10%, and so is Dak. So specifically in a large field GPP like the Milli Maker, I'm trying to get different. So I like stacking Dak with CeeDee Lamb. Now, I do have a bring back option with Saquon Barkley in that game. So there's not a lot of backs. The pool of backs is very slim. So you got to just understand that your overall ownership projections with these backs is going to be a little higher. So it's going to be difficult to get different there. You're going to have to get different elsewhere. So I'm cool with that as a bring back. And then James Robinson, I've gone back and forth on this. It's funny, we talked about on Fantasy Fling podcast with our Week 15 cash preview. I wanted no part of James Robinson with Urban Meyer as a coach because I don't trust him. Well, literally right after we recorded, Urban Meyer got fired. So James Robinson is now a cash game lock. And to be honest, I really was just thinking of fading him entirely in GPPs, but he's just such a good play at 5,400 that it's just really hard to fade him with having a condensed slate and not, as many games as we were going to have before. So if I can still play him, and him being by far the chalkiest player in my lineup, but get different elsewhere, I'm willing to do that. So I've gone back and forth. I'm probably going to play him in this lineup. In other GPPs, I'll probably do some fading, and certainly he'll be my cash game running back. But he did make his way into this lineup. And then I made a couple changes. So with Emmanuel Sanders out this week, I do like Gabriel Davis. I think Buffalo it's a get-right game for them after losing to Tampa last week, and they could just really have their way with Carolina this week. So I swapped him in there. And, of course, I have Lamb and then Debo. So Debo is coming in quite low ownership as well. So he is 9%. So another stud under 10. I like that. And then I do have Evan Ingram in that Dallas and your Giants game. So I guess that's a pretty decent-sized stack in that game. He's really cheap, and I was just really looking for a pay down option at tight end, so I could fit Debo, and then the next guy in there, Javonte Williams. Kind of surprised by this. Only seeing 4% ownership right now on Javonte Williams. And I do think Melvin Gordon is questionable, so there's a chance that he doesn't even play, and if he does, I will take a chance on Javonte. Last week we saw two Broncos, Melvin Gordon and Javonte, score over 20 points. So on any given week, one of these players could have a ceiling game. And then lastly, I have the Bills. Had to fit them in there going against Carolina. They're 3,100. They meet the criteria of a 3,000K defense. So the Bills are going to be my D for the week. And then, of course, you got a mini stack there with Gabriel Davis and the Bills D.
Nice, man. We definitely have some overlap. That's why I kind of was just chuckling a little bit when you
9 games.
Those players. What's that?
9 games. So
yeah, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I think the winning lineup probably might be a little chalkier than normal.
Yeah, I thought about that too. Originally I set it to like 120%, and then I backed it down to like 110%, realizing that some of these players are going to be chalkier than they're appearing today.
Yep.
So yeah, I think overall I'm at like 100%, but I could easily see 120, 130% lineup win in the Milli Maker this week.
Yeah, I definitely I like the lineup. Like I said, I went the other way. I was debating on Gabriel Davis or Cole Beasley with Manny Sanders being out, so I went the Cole Beasley route. But I understand the thought process. I mean, it's either one. You never know. You just don't know, right? That's what we're doing.
Yes, sir.
But I like the lineup, man. So I'll preface this with it says about 105% ownership, but it could change. But I kind of threw this together on the fly. I had a couple ideas for lineups, so subject to change. That's my preface. But I ended up with Carolina Buffalo game. I think I'm avoiding Carolina altogether. I want nothing to do with Cam Newton or possibly PJ Walker in the 2-minute drill.
No,
I don't want, or even if Sam Darnold were there. I don't want any of that. I don't. I mean, just to say, like 3 weeks ago, Cam was in the Milli Maker lineup winner, but since then he's looked like he's throwing medicine balls. So I'm avoiding Cam. So I went with the other side of that. I went with Josh Allen and the Cole Beasley stack. That's the only actual stack I have in the whole lineup. But it's kind of a weird week, so maybe a weird just one-off stack will work.
Yeah.
But I have Josh Allen, Cole Beasley. My running backs sound familiar. I know James Robinson is the chalk, but I had to put him in there, man. Which I might have to reconsider, considering how many people might play him. But Javonte Williams was my other running back because he's under 5% owned. Even if Gordon plays, I think he's just too talented not to play him. He's so good.
I agree.
Brandon Cooks is another guy I have in there. He's a little bit chalky. David Mills loves to throw him the ball. Marvin Jones Jr. He's also, I've got the running back and the receiver, but with the change with Urban Meyer being out, which I think is probably for the best thing. He seemed like kind of an asshole.
You nail that one.
I mean, there was an argument. Like, I guess he and Marvin Jones Jr. got into a big argument, and during that argument, he called all of his coaches losers. So, he was probably
by the way, you hired those coaches. So what does that say about you?
Yeah, he needs to learn a little bit of extreme ownership for sure. Yeah. But Brandon Cooks, Marvin Jones Jr., and then as mentioned, Cole Beasley. I have C.J. Uzomah against the Broncos. He's kind of a boom or bust type of guy. I was trying to get Gesicki in there, but I couldn't fit him in. And then I have Devontae Adams in the flex, and the Titans defense as the D. I was watching that game last week against Big Ben. I mean, he came back in the end, but he was making Minnesota D look really good, and they're not. So I'm betting against Big Ben. He usually gives up at least a few sacks, a few big plays, so we'll see how that goes. They're 3,000, so right around that range.
It's a good call.
So again, just Josh Allen, James Robinson, Javonte Williams, Brandon Cooks, Marvin Jones Jr., Cole Beasley, C.J. Uzomah, Devontae Adams, and the Titans. And I have $100 to spare.
Nice, man. Well, you don't always have to spend it.
Right.
So, $100. I think I wouldn't go more than I don't think I've ever seen a lineup that was less than spent less than like 49.7. So as long as it's over 49.7, I think you're good.
I was just looking at the Milli Maker write up you did, and the guy that won last week actually had 100 to spare as well.
Yep.
I mean, I didn't do that on purpose; it just happened to be. But yeah, absolutely. It's a little chalkier than. We'll see how it goes on tomorrow morning as I'm getting ready to submit it. But we'll see. It's about 105%. Could go up, could go down. We'll see.
Absolutely. Well, let's move it right along, get into stacks, studs, and sleepers.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
So, I guess I'll start it out here. I'm not with the way this lineup this slate has turned because of COVID. Like, I'm just not gonna play like a ton of different lineups this week. So, I'm gonna focus in on a small player pool, and hope those games that I do focus in on go off. And if they don't, it's fine because I'm not gonna have a lot of my bankroll, on the line this week. So I got Dak and Lamb obviously in my lineup, so I like that. You can mix it up, hit it a few different angles with Cooper, of course. But yeah, I am fading Zeke this week. I don't like Zeke this week. So Dak, I'm seeing 9%. Lamb at 7%. Cooper, from what I saw, where's Cooper at? He was quite low as well. Yeah, 8%. So kind of the same thing with both of these guys. And then another game that I was looking at, which I have quite a bit of Debo. So if you're looking to play Debo, you could certainly stack him with Jimmy G because Jimmy G is cheap and he's only coming at 5% ownership as well as Debo at 8%. So that is a stack that I do like. And then lastly, Carla Murray. Now, obviously, Murray's going to probably end up being higher owned, which is my guess. So right now I'm seeing 12%. And then obviously if you want to stack him with Kirk, it's going to be a chalky stack because Kirk right now I'm seeing it 17% projected ownership. But you can get different by going to more. Maybe you hit the tight end. You could stack Murray with Connor or Edmonds. You could go several different ways about it if you just want to do a crazy, heavy, thick stack. But not playing it in the Milli, but yeah, small tournaments, definitely going to have me quite a bit of Murray and Kirk stacks.
I like it, man. That was the first thing I wrote down on my stacks. Literally the first thing I wrote down was Kyler Murray and Kirk.
Yes, sir.
That was the first two I wrote down. I also wrote down, James Conner and the Arizona defense. They're playing against the Lions. I also wrote down Dak and Lamb as well, but I'm not opposed to Cooper. I played Cooper last week, and that worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
I know Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. The Baltimore defense isn't the one we've known for the last years, so any given week, those two can go off as well. I also wrote down James Robinson and Jacksonville defense, but I just am not sure. Like, that's kind of more
could be good.
I think
it's going to get
could be. But the projected ownership, I'm not sure what the ownership is for the Jags, but it's pretty high. Yeah, it's pretty high. So that's more of a cash, I think, type play if you wanted to stack those two. But just because they're playing the backup QB, I think you can play either defense in that game.
Yeah.
But that's about all I wrote down. I also wrote down Tua and Parker. That's a little risky, but it's the name of the game. Devontae Parker and Tua both projected pretty high on fantasy points per dollar. That's basically all I wrote down. There's more, but like you said, this week probably going to be a pretty small amount of people that I play, lineups that I play. Yeah,
I agree with that for sure. And you with the team losing their coach, oftentimes especially if they've freaking hated him, like they probably did with Urban Meyer.
Get weight off their shoulders.
Yeah, they come out energized more times than not and play well. So you never know, man. It could be a really good play. So I like it. Well, let's go on to the studs now. With all the COVID news and players getting ruled out and games getting postponed off the main slate, not a lot of studs this week. So I'm gonna kind of keep it simple. Najee Harris, as far as running backs, he's probably the biggest stud on the slate at this point. Maybe him and James Robinson, obviously both of them. So James Robinson being, vastly underpriced for probably his role this week and the matchup. That's why he's a chalk. Right now I'm seeing 29%. But, yeah, he has a ceiling projection of 27 points. And then Najee Harris, with all his receptions he gets from washed up Ben, the checkdowns, He's ceiling projection is 33 points, but yeah, he's got about the same projection as James Robinson, both just above 18. Joe Mixon has been in the winning Milli Maker lineup several times this season, I think like 5 times. So he's a potential play because, he's very low owned, but, he is a stud. He has a ceiling projection of 29 points. And then obviously I got Barkley. Connor, if he plays, specifically if there's no Edmonds, he's a lock for sure. And he'll be a little chalkier. As far as wide receivers, there's the usual suspects. There's Devontae Adams. With no Cup, he is the top play on the slate. He's 8,900. There's Deebo Samuel. He's 8,200. He's just behind him. He has a ceiling projection of 37 points. Devontae, 40. There's Deontay has consideration as well. Is got to have some exposure to him. And then last, Diggs in, a great matchup for sure. 28-point team total Buffalo has. One of the higher projected games. Like I said, they're coming off a loss. I think they'll be ready to roll. So Diggs would probably kind of finish it out for my studs this week.
Nice. I like it. Again, a lot of overlap. I had, for quite Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Dak, and Aaron Rodgers all listed. Studs. It's kind of hard to ever count Rodgers out. It's just since the first game of the year, he's pretty much played pretty well. I was one of the first people I also wrote down was Joe Mixon. Recency bias. The guys. I was looking back at his game log, and he had some crazy games. The last two he's played have been kind of, not great, but he's a great player. It's easy for him to bounce back, and his price has dropped a little.
Yeah.
Cordell, I guess he's more of a sleeper as well, but Cordell Patterson almost always produces, and he's still 6,900. He's offense kind of runs through him. He's a great player, and he shows at less than 3% owned at this point. There we go. Sorry about that. Also like a Connor as well. I think even if Chase Edmonds plays, I still like Connor. I feel like they, last time the Cardinals had such a big lead, I think Kyler Murray threw the ball 15 times, which means there's plenty of runs to go around for both running backs if that happens. And it looks like, from what I've been seeing, he's supposed to play based on it. But receivers, Debo, Adams, Diggs. I like Jamar Chase and or T. Higgins. Take your pick on that one.
Yeah.
And
I actually like T. Higgins a little better this week just because I think Patrick Surtain will probably cover Chase. And that'll open things up a little more for Higgins, getting the number 2 DB in Denver. But that doesn't mean that Chase can't have a big game. I mean, he's a stud.
Yeah, it only takes one play for him, that type of player, One 70-yard touchdown. He's pretty much had a pretty good week from that point forward. And then, I think Brandon Cooks is a good play this week. Every time David Mills is there, he fixates target fixation on Brandon Cooks. So, and especially in full PPR, I like him a lot. And then moving on to some tight ends. I mean, how could you not play Kittle after what he's done his last few weeks? Mike Gesicki as well.
And good list. And
Andrews.
Can't forget
and Andrews is a good play as well because it's whether it's Huntley or Lamar Jackson, they seem to target him regardless. So he's pretty safe.
Yeah, he had a good game last week with Huntley at the helm.
Yeah. You had mentioned also Evan Ingram. It might be a good play this week as well. So that's about it for there. And some defenses, of course. The Dolphins are probably most expensive, one of the most expensive ones. But sorry, I like the Dolphins a lot this week. I like the Bills a lot this week because they're playing against Cam or PJ Walker or whomever. That's about it for the studs. Sorry, I'll continue.
Right.
I know you muted because Bailey. I'll as you're muted, I'll just continue with the sleepers, and then hopefully she's done by then. So the sleepers, I did write down T. Higgins. Actually, I talked to him as a stud as well, but Javonte Williams, in my opinion, is a sleeper as well because he's less than 5% owned. Jeff Wilson might be there as well with Elijah Mitchell being out again. Chase Edmonds could actually be a sleeper as well because his ownership's really low, and they're playing the Lions. Could be a pretty low-scoring game. I wrote Patterson down, who is also a stud, but he's a sleeper because he's really low owned right now. From what I can tell, he's less than 3%, which I think qualifies as a sleeper. And then someone to look for is if the game gets out of hand, A.J. Dillon is extremely inexpensive right now. He's less than 1% owned, and he is pretty inexpensive. If the game gets out of hand or they decide to rest Jones or whatever, even when Jones plays, he's pretty good. So I like him as well. My dog is upstairs yapping, so I apologize on that. But
you good?
Yeah, the last player, just to sum up, because I'm not sure if you caught it, I listened to Higgins, listened to Javonte, listened to Jeff Wilson, Chase Edmonds, because the game could get so far at hand, they just run the ball nonstop. A.J. Dillon I listed also because they're playing. I don't know, if Lamar plays, he's not going to be very mobile. They could get way ahead, and it could be A.J. Dillon's season to run out the clock. And then you have Patterson listed as well, who's less than 3% owned. A.J. Dillon's less than 1%. So
yeah, you got to play him. He's getting a lot of carries regardless, and he
is, man. Yeah, I was gonna say even when Jones is playing, he gets about the equal amount or close to anyway. And usually, if it's the game's over, they kind of use him as the wrecking ball to run out the clock. So,
well, for the sake of not naming a lot of the same players that we've already named, so obviously I was gonna say Patterson. you got him. He gets carries. He gets receptions. And he's had multiple touchdown games. So he could certainly be a guy. Devonta Foreman, very low ownership going against the Steelers defense, which has been horrible as of late against the run. So he's in play. Michael Carter, had built some lineups with him. He is projected to be higher owned. So I'm not sure how much of a sleeper he really is, but he's only 4,700. So obviously I mentioned Gabriel Davis in my Milli Maker build. Like him, Albert Wilson, seeing him at 4% ownership right now going against the Jets. So if Jalen Waddle's going to be out and then everyone's on Parker, that's a good leverage play. Just a nice pivot off of Parker to Wilson. Chase Claypool, seeing low ownership for him as well, less than 1%. So a lot of people are going to be in on Deontay. Play Chase. AJ Green, kind of same thing. Everyone's going to be on Christian Kirk. Play some AJ Green. It's all about the leverage.
Absolutely. I like the Michael Carter. If just someone to throw out there that could be sleepers, if Carter, if they limit him because he's coming back off an injury, you know, Tevin Coleman is basically unowned. So Carter's high owned at this point, but if they kind of limit, Michael Carter snap count, then Tevin Coleman could be someone who, I'm not sure how high his ceiling is, but he's someone that could get touches.
Well, that's going to do it for our Week 15 Milli Maker preview. Go over to fantasyfootballfling.com and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an article. Every single week we do the breakdown, looking at different trends that have been happening this season, and then it's almost Week 16, so about to do full Week 16 weeks of data for the trends. Yeah, it's craziness. But and then we appreciate you watching. So like, comment, subscribe, share, all the things. Appreciate you supporting us. Good luck in the Milli Maker. Good luck in your cash games. Good luck in any of your tournaments. It's a wild week, but hey, we got football every day this week. So us degenerates can play all the slates, the showdowns, and all that.
Absolutely. Stay safe out there. Obviously, COVID's not only hitting the NFL; it seems to be another spike. So just be safe, be smart. Take care of each other.
Real quick, one question. John Guapo, the God. Pittman or D. Parker? I like Parker this week.
Yeah, Waddle's out, isn't he? I think Waddle's getting hit with COVID. Yeah. He's out. So with him being out, I definitely like Parker as well.
Yes. All right, cool. Well, that's going to do it. Good luck. See ya.